Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. My name is Eloise Schottler. I'm a storyteller. Today I'm going to tell an old folk tale from Korea, actually. It's called The Tiger's Whisker. There had been war for so long in their country, and the woman was there and her husband had been gone. She'd been living alone for so long. And then the war was over after many years and he came home. But there was times when she felt like that only his bones and his flesh had come home, that his spirit had not come back with him. He was not the same. She who had yearned to have him back, to have his arms around her, and he didn't even look at her. He didn't look at her. He stood by the window many hours during the day, looking out, lost in his thoughts, and he had nothing to say. And a month went by, 2 months, 3 months. She lost count of the months. She was missing him, and he seemed to be there, but he wasn't. So one day, she left the house to go down to the village. She told him, I'm going to buy some food. I need to go to the market. And when she left the house, she went in a different direction. And she walked for a while. She knew where she was going. She came to the house of an old man who was known for his magic powers. She walked up to the door. He opened it and said, well, what would you want? You have to help me. And he said, well, come in. And she went in. They sat down. What is it that you want help with? I need a magic potion. I need a magic potion. My husband is home from the war. He's been gone such a long time. And he turns his back on me. He doesn't talk to me. I need a love potion. I need to have his love back. Well, it does sound like you're in a situation where you need a love potion, and I can make you one, but I will need a special ingredient. A special ingredient? You don't have all the ingredients? No. I do need a special ingredient that you will have to get and bring to me. Well, what is it? What is this special ingredient? It's a tiger's whisker. The whisker from a living tiger. Are you crazy? Look at me. I'm just a woman. I'm not a warrior. I would be frightened. I don't know how to do that. He said, I trust that you will know how to do it when you think about it. Come back to me when you have the whisker, and I will make you the potion. But she left. She walked down the road going toward the village, and she was weeping. The tears were coming down her cheeks, and she said, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. And then she thought for a few minutes, quietly, no more tears, no more tears. And then she went faster, faster, faster toward the town, toward the market. She went right to the shop where they sold meat. And she bought a chunk of bloody meat. He wrapped it with an old paper and gave it to her. She knew where there were tigers. And she walked up till she reached the foothills. And then she walked up higher and higher. It was known that there was a cave up this way, and that tigers lived in that cave. And I'll see a tiger there. I'll see a tiger there, and I'll find out how I can do that. Well, she walked and walked until she saw the cave, and there was a tiger laying stretched out in front of the opening to the cave. She was so frightened that she stopped. And she hid behind a huge rock, but she could see in the distance what was happening. What shall I do? How shall I do this? So she stepped out into the path. She took that meat in her hand, and she moved up a little bit, and then she tossed it, and it landed right in front of the tiger. He opened his eyes. He lifted his head. He opened his mouth, and she saw the big teeth. She wanted to get up and to run, but she knew that that would bring him running after her. So she just watched until he ate. And when he went back to sleep, his stomach so satisfied, she went back to town, to her home. She thought about it all night. What would she do? Could she do something different? And she went the next day once again to the market, and she bought a piece of bloody meat, and he wrapped it and gave it to her. And she walked up until she got within sight of the opening of the cave. That tiger was back out there. He was asleep. She didn't want to wake him up just yet. And she moved up a little closer. She knew that he would be able to smell her by now, but she had the meat. She had the meat. And so she reached out and she threw it right in front of his mouth. And it sat there for a few minutes, and then he smelled it and he raised his head, and he was there, looking around, looking at the meat, being careful. That went on every day. She got meat, she went up to the cave, she threw out a piece of meat, she moved up a little closer. It became such a habit. The tiger recognized that she was in the area. She was pretty sure of that. He knew she was there, but he didn't move. And she threw out the meat, and he ate. And each day after the first several weeks, she moved closer and closer. And he didn't stir at all when she came, and he heard the thud of the meat fall. And he reached out, pulled it to him, and ate it. She was getting closer. It was going slow. She had wanted to do this, just have her husband drink a potion and then be his former self, but that wasn't how it was working out. But she wasn't going to give up. Patiently every day she came, she brought the meat, and she came closer and closer until, you know, she was sitting beside the tiger. She could reach out and touch him. And one afternoon she did reach out and touch him. Her hand was shaking, but she reached out, she touched him, and he didn't even seem to notice. And then she dropped the meat. And that went on for another while. She'd go up with a piece of meat, she'd move closer, almost till the fact that his head could have been in her lap. They were that close. And one day, she moved up close, close. It was clear that the tiger knew she was there. He looked up at her, and she reached into her pocket, and she brought out a very small scissors. This was the day she was going to get that Whisker. And as he bit down into the meat and was enjoying it so much, she reached over and clipped a Whisker, put it in her pocket, everything very slowly, and she moved back away from the tiger, and when she was far enough away, she stood up and ran. She ran back toward the village. She ran down the road toward the house of the man who was going to make her a potion. Ran up to the door, and when he opened the door, he was startled to see her. "It's you." "Yes, it's me, and I have it here in my pocket." You have what? The ingredient that you sent me for. And she showed him the whisker. You've got it. You really do have a whisker. Yes, I have a whisker. And he looked at it and he said, how did you do that? How did you get it? And she told him how she had gone there every day. She had bought a piece of meat. She went up near the cave. She sat near the tiger until he trusted her. And he wasn't afraid of her. And this afternoon, I cut the whisker off, and he didn't even move when I did it. It is a real tiger's whisker. He stood up, and he moved close to the fire where he was cooking something. And he took the whisker, and he threw it into the fire. What are you doing? What have you just done with the whisker that has taken me days, weeks to get? I've been very afraid, but I got it so that you could make the potion for me. You don't need that whisker. You have everything that you need to win your husband. You went there, you didn't stop, you were determined. You went there and you were patient every day. And the tiger came to trust you. You don't need me and you don't need a potion. Go home, woman. Go home. You can win your husband's love back on your own. Well, tears were dribbling down her cheeks. She turned and walked out, and at first she was upset and she was going to cry. I did that. I went and did that every day, and I got the whisker, and I was going to get my husband back. He'd take a sip of the potion and he would have been back. And then she realized that what he needed was her patience and to come to trust her love. She went back home. She went up close to him, put her arms around his neck, and every day she made a meal, special meal. She touched him. He came closer. She hugged him. She sat near him so that she could reach out and touch him until he felt her love. He felt safe, surrounded by her love. And he was finally at home, flesh, bones, and spirit. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll come back.